The gaming industry is in an extremely particular space of increased prices, less effort, and just overall more scurriness to the consumer. And this isn't just with live service titles, this isn't just with consoles, this isn't just with hardware components. This is with your single player games. Your single player games are turning into live service titles, and I am amazed that more developers have been scrutinized for this. The main culprit is Bethesda Game Studios. They release single player titles in bad states and then they fix it later. Now, this isn't to differentiate here from other studios that continue to support single player titles later on. Baldur's Gate 3 is a perfect example of that. They did early access, they then did 1.0, and then they continuously updated with things like photo mode, with more updates, and more things to add to the game. That is how you actually do it properly. You're supporting a single player game, and it also has multiplayer components into its future. You're adding mod support, you're doing more things. But when we have a single player game that releases in a poor state that needs content updates to actually make it more fun, or in a lot of cases, it just make it more bearable, this isn't a thing that we should be doing in this industry. The Outer Worlds 2 is another great example. They just got a patch about a week ago that added like some new bounty hunting feature, I'm pretty sure, of certain like high level creatures and more fixes. How does it take almost 6 to 8 months and you still haven't fixed the performance issues in the game? That blows my mind. And you know what? Yes, it is your fault that you used Unreal Engine 5. You guys don't have the talent to run that. You can't get these games to run at 60 frames minimum. It's so disappointing. And this is even going as far as talking about other game studios as well. I mean, how many game studios in our industry have just been okay with releasing a game in a poor state and fixing it later? The last Jedi Survivor game, like, that was so disappointing because EA and Respawn have been able to make absolutely amazing Star Wars games. Let us not deny. Like, even with Star Wars Battlefront 2 single player, they had kind of potential there. Their online was awful, but the single player had potential, and them showing us, look, they can do a really good single player Star Wars game, but then, like, it's broken and busted, and it's missing content and features. Like, I hate when I see developers add major features to a single player game years later, because I'm not going to feel inclined to go back and play it. Cyberpunk 2077 is probably the only game that has kind of changed around this because they added an expansion. That brings me back because it's more story content, but I'm not going to go back because they added like, oh, you can change colors to your cars now. Right? I'm not going to go back because now you can craft in a better way. Like, that's not going to keep me invested as a person who bought the game day one, who invested in your game day one expecting a full, complete experience. But to the person that's buying the game years later at a discount, in a better state, with more content, yeah, that's more props to them. But you screw your day one consumers. And where CDPR may have redeemed themselves, hopefully, I pray to fucking God that The Witcher 4 is a solid experience, because if it's not, I'm going to lose my mind, but where they have redeemed themselves in some ways, Bethesda hasn't, other game developers haven't, Ubisoft hasn't, Star Wars Outlaws, holy shit, I played that game a few months ago, god-awful, god-awful, and that was a game that was even worse at launch, so I don't know what I missed, but if what I played was some of the most mediocre slop I think I've ever experienced, I dread what people day one had to play. I feel bad for you. I feel bad that Ubisoft charged you $60 to $70 and upwards of $120 for expansions and DLC content just to play that shit. That was not worth it, and I got it on a fucking subscription. I feel so bad for people who had to buy it. And this is just clear examples, clear-cut examples of poor management in the industry, rush deadlines, and pure fucking greed. We should not be seeing single-player games get massive content patches and massive features that would have made the game better years later. Baldur's Gate 3 adding a photo mode, that's not too bad, right? You can even mod that in. Baldur's Gate 3 getting mod support. Baldur's Gate 3 getting like a subclass. Oh, that's little bits of content to the people that want to come back and kind of check it out. But Starfield getting a whole buggy? Like something that completely changes how exploration works? Star Wars Outlaws getting a complete overhaul of its mission design and its stealth. That's a problem. You shouldn't have to do that. The game should be polished and well done day one when I buy it, when I play it. Cyberpunk 2077 shouldn't need dozens of bug patches and a complete overhaul of the cop system just to make sure that it actually works. Like, and again, they redeem themselves a lot in a lot of ways with Cyberpunk, but I'm just using these as examples. So many game development studios keep doing this, and it's so sad because we're going to have more of these problems. You even have studios that the Hitman studio, IO Interactive, you know what? They've had a really good example of how to do single player live service games. I will give them props for that because Hitman was a good game at launch, right? And then they add more missions, they add more content, they get celebrity cameos. Like, that's cool, right? To the players that want to come back and experience that, you have more content to play. But you didn't miss out on any major insane features that would completely change the course of how the game would be played and how you would experience it day one. They're just adding more of what is already good. And 007 First Light, that game is getting a whole year's worth of content and support and DLC, but they're not adding anything major that's going to be completely revolutionizing or changing how the game works. They're not doing a 2.0 like how Starfield is kind of not really doing, like how Cyberpunk did, like how even other games like Doom the Dark Ages. Such a disappointing game in my opinion. Like, I see where id Software was coming, I really do. I think it's a good game. It's not a bad game, but it's not as good as Eternal. Like, Eternal was just so good for me, and Dark Ages was just such a step back. But they're adding features that should have been in the game day one. Like, it wasn't finished. You were adding so many new accessibility features that would have made my first-hand experience 10 times better. Something as simple as turning off the slow motion mechanic when you reflect a shot from an enemy with your shield would have completely changed it for me. Because I don't know about you guys, but if you've played Doom the Dark Ages, that game is too slow. It's too slow. I don't understand why you guys went from, okay, like a steady experience of 2016 to some of the fastest gameplay I've ever experienced and some of the most amazing gameplay I've ever experienced to, yeah, no, we're gonna fucking put you down to a snail's pace. And we're also not only gonna put you down to a snail's pace where you're gonna feel slower, but we're gonna make the arenas 10 times bigger so you definitely feel slower. It's like, why wouldn't you shrink the arenas? Like what was the concept there? We get down to so many game development studios. They keep doing this, and publishers keep allowing it. Halo fucking Infinite, man. Not even saying it for a single player game. No, even saying it for a single player game. They didn't have campaign co-op for over a year. Things that would completely change the experience. You couldn't do mission select. I don't even think you still can. Correct me in the comments if you can, but I'm not sure if you can choose the missions that you want to play in Halo Infinite. You are restricted to starting a new campaign and going through it. So if you really liked a mission, at least to my understanding, but this was definitely a thing at launch, you couldn't play the mission you wanted unless you went through the game again. So many problems with their industry, and they keep fucking doing it. And it's so sad because there's so many players that will buy the game day one and they'll make some money back, but they make a lot of their money from later sales, from players that buy the game on 25, 50, 75% off. Ubisoft does this a lot. They've recently discounted Watch Dogs 2 down to like $2, $3. They're probably going to be making a decent amount of money off of that just because the game is so fucking cheap. And I bet Watch Dogs 2 was another game of that caliber. They released it in a poorish state, and then they try to fix it later. I mean, I know Watch Dogs Legion was like that, because Watch Dogs Legion was, I think, better than more of their games, in my opinion, but it was also broken. It was also boring in a lot of ways. And yeah, they had to patch it out. They had to fix it, adding massive content updates and features to make it seem viable to actually play. So disappointing that in our industry we continue to allow these developers to do this, and that the publishers still think it's okay, and then they wonder why they have to lay people off, and then they wonder why their games aren't selling. It's because people want to go back to the older games that are already patched. People are still playing Cyberpunk 2077. They don't want to play Starfield. They don't want to play the newer games. They want to play the games that are almost 6 fucking years old now, that have had years of updates and content. Cyberpunk 2077 is still a top selling game, and you know what? In my opinion, it deserves that. If you bought the game right now at $15, $20, you're going to get a good goddamn experience. But if I told myself, the 15, 16-year-old myself 6 years ago, that you're going to be buying an incomplete product and it's going to be complete dog shit to what you could be playing in 3 years, I'd be pissed. And rightfully so. And that's for so many other games. If I told myself back in 2023 that Starfield in 2023 was going to be the most disappointing game of the generation for you, I would be fucking mad. And that I would be making dozens of videos talking about my fucking hate for the game. And you know what? Like, I see its passion, I see where it is, but like my annoyance with Bethesda and their inability to produce anything of fucking quality that I can look back and say, yeah, you know what, that was actually pretty fucking good. Not a, oh my god, this isn't that bad at launch, I'm enjoying this. And then I keep playing it and I'm like, oh no, this is just the same slop that you've been feeding me for the past decade, but with a space skin on it. And that's the same shit with literally every single other developer. It's just the same shit with a different fucking skin.